The cornerback position will be the strength of the defense in 2024.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And speaking of you every day, shout out to you guys. For without you, none of this would be possible. So I love what you guys do, and I love the support that you guys give the show. So continue that and pass the word. Because on today's episode, we're going to talk about how the Vandyboys have added some pop to the lineup. Yep, still going with some baseball. Virginia Tech will test the secondary early and often, but the secondary, especially the corners, will be the strength of this team. So looking at the strength of this team, the overall strength of this team is within the transfers. Okay, so there's a couple freshman corners that are coming in that will add quality depth to it, but the name of this position is going to be in the transfers. Now, Pro Football Focus put out a list of their highest graded corners coming into this season. Here's that list. Okay, so as you see in the SEC, Mark Davis and Marlon Jones, two transfers. Mark Davis from Southern Illinois, and Marlon Jones from All Conference from Eastern Washington. And I think he's only a 79.4 because he played in FCS last year. Now you notice that Texas has 3 on this list. Ole Miss has 1, A&M has 1, Kentucky has 1, and Auburn has 1. And they graded it on a minimum of 250 snaps. So it's probably an odd sight to see black and gold, to see that V in a list like this, because you have teams like Georgia, Alabama in the list, Florida that usually has pretty good defense, and it's 3 Texas guys, 2 Vandy guys, and a Kentucky player. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 Vandy guys in the top 5. So this is a big deal. And this is a big deal not only for the play on the field, but also in recruiting. And I'll talk about kind of the levels and the layers of why this is awesome and why these 2 deserve to be in this list. Well, first of all, these 2 are really good in man coverage. And Mark Davis is big, long, physical. He is really good at the point of attack. He can play just about any coverage. Same with Marlon Jones. He's not quite as big, but he is physical, and he is really good defending on the point. So I really like that these guys are going to allow Clark Lee to play a lot of different coverages and be able to come after teams and be able to put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, because you've got these two standout corners. And there's a good bit of depth to this position too. But the reason why this is good to have is you have 2 guys you can rely on and say, all right, well, we need to play 2-man, or, hey, we need to go straight cover 0. Can you guys, Mark Davis, can you handle covering the other team's number 1 receiver? And based on this list, it looks like he probably can, and he's going to be asked to as far as this list goes, if this list holds out. Now, there could be a multitude of different guys rolling in the rotation, but for the most part, these 2 are probably going to be are going to end up being your 2 starters, as they probably should, because of their coverage skills. And you may see a little more man coverage out of Vanderbilt. You may see some other funky coverages and things like that. But I mean, again, it just opens up the playbook for Clark Lee. And now that he's got complete reign of the defense, you're going to see an identity of, now he's got some guys in the secondary. We talked about the safeties. In a couple of the episodes, especially yesterday with Dante Carter, but we've talked about the safeties as Brandon Fontenette and CJ Taylor. Those guys are going to be integral pieces in covering things underneath, playing run support, playing deep middle of the field. but these corners are really going to come into play by – it's almost going to be kind of off man versus press man, because like a lot of the zone coverages, they're going to be left on an island anyway. So if a team wants to stretch the field vertically, they're going to have to stretch beyond these corners, and these corners look more like SEC corners than I think Vandy's had in a while. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how they're used, see what kind of coverages they're in, and to see what kind of things that Clark Lee is able to do creatively with this group. Now, why is it great in recruiting? Well, it's great in recruiting because you can point to this graph, although you can have whatever opinion you want about Pro Football Focus, but you look at that graph and it is, just you're amongst some of these top programs and like, hey, look, see, we've got also top corners in there. You come here and you can be on this list, and you can make it to the league. So it's one of those things where you point to that, and you point to the scheme, and you point to, okay, well, we can do this, this, and this with coverage wise. We can combine it with these blitzes, and we can get you some opportunities to create some turnovers and to create some havoc plays. And if you come to Vanderbilt, that's going to happen. So that is why, recruiting wise, it is a home run. So, but this list doesn't stop with just those two, right? This list doesn't stop with these two, with Mark Davis and Marlon Jones. I mean, you have Colby Taylor, who I think is going to be a great slot corner. He is somebody that brings a lot of height to this position, brings a lot of physicality. He looks physically imposing as well. So he's a guy that that brings a lot of depth and will allow you to play some 3 cornerback sets. Then you have Martell Height, who is just an absolute competitor. You see him in some one-on-one stuff. He can play some coverage as well. If one of those guys gets nicked up or has an off game or just needs a break, Martell Height can come in and do some things there. Trudell Berry is somebody that'll be in the mix as well. Alvin Williamson coming in from high school is also somebody that will look to add some depth there and try to get into the rotation in a group that has a good bit of players, but just not quite. The opportunity is not quite there for a freshman this year. It's going to be more of a developmental position. So I'm loving this cornerback position. I'm loving that Vanderbilt has these two guys ranked in this top list. I'm loving that. Let me bring the list back up. I'm loving that it goes Texas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. Probably the anti-SEC list, because there's no Georgia, there's no Alabama on that list, there's no Florida on that list, there's no Tennessee on that list, there's no South Carolina. It's all teams that you're just like, okay, like, because it goes Texas, Vandy, Kentucky, Vandy, Texas, and Texas is a newcomer, and they bring in three top, 3 of the 7 top highest graded returning SEC cornerbacks: Jalen Braxton from Arkansas, Trey Amos at Ole Miss, Will Lee and Keontae Scott, also really, really good corners there. And the 3 from Texas and Keontae Scott will be going against these Vandy receivers, and we'll talk more about those matchups during those game weeks as far as how they stack up. But it's something that, again, it's part of the renaissance, right? To have 2 of these guys, to be able to get these guys out of the portal and say, okay, come to Vanderbilt where you'll have an opportunity. And these guys could have said, you know what? It's Vandy, 2-10. Vandy's always going to be terrible. But they didn't. They saw a lot of promise in what Clark Lee was building. They saw a lot of potential to be seen for the next level in Clark Lee's defense. They've seen that, okay, well, he plays a more aggressive style of defense. What they did on film last year is nothing like what he's presenting to us now. The culture is a lot better. The strength and conditioning is a lot better. So it's just part of this whole, Vandy renaissance that we're seeing right now. Now, how it plays out on the field will remain to be seen. I think you'll see a much more competitive Vandy team. They've got a brutal schedule, but they've got some guys now in position, and getting these guys out of the portal, it's almost like you're getting a new nucleus of guys, and the nucleus of guys that don't know what 2-10 is like, or they don't know that they're supposed to be bad or they're supposed to suck. So again, it's one of those factors of, they have this, they come in with this just, hey, I don't know what that team was like. I just know that I'm pretty good at football and I'm going to prove it. And they've made these lists, and we'll kind of see how their positions shake out, and we'll see where they fit into the scheme, where they fit into how Vandy does with the season, how the corners can play a big factor in that. But I think when you look at Vandy's defense, this is the deepest position group there is, and it's a lot of transfers. And so I'm really liking it for nickel coverage, especially in the depth of this position. But Mark Davis, Marlon Jones, highly graded according to PFF, and it's going to be outstanding to watch them. It's going to be exciting to watch these guys operate in the fall. And right out of the gates, they're going to get tested, and we'll talk about that test next. All right, this episode is presented by eBay. Passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Motor or eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN? Are you tired of all that shouting and you have to manage your volume and not just destroy everyone's eardrums around you? Well, you need to make this, if you are, you need to make the switch right now to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. So every day. Speaking of that, thank you for making us part of your everyday routine. And thank you for making us your first listen. Make sure you check out Locked On SEC right after this and Locked On College Sports Today as well. Again, if you're tired of all the screaming. So anyway, again, this secondary is going to be really good for Vandy. I mean, we talked about the safety position before. And DeRicky Wright returns to the lineup to add to Dante Carter and CJ Taylor and Maurice Hampton and, Randon Fontenette, who's going to play the star position. And, there's some guys that are up for that as well. And you're going to just a very deep secondary. And I think the corners are going to provide a lot of support, and they're going to need to, because Game 1 is not for the birds, and they're going to be tested early and often. But you know what? I think they can handle it, right? You look at Virginia Tech, right? And they got guys that can match up. Like, they've got college level guys. It's not like they're digging deep into the freshman barrel here to cover these Virginia Tech guys. These Hokie receivers are going to be really good. It's as strong as it's ever been. Allie Jennings returning from a knee injury. course, you never know what happens. He joins Daquan Felton, Jalen Lane, and Steven Gosnell. That combined for 101 catches and 1,553 yards and 17 touchdowns. So it's a talented group, right? And they're going to have their work cut out for them. But again, I think you have some coverage guys. You have some safety help over the top that you can, play some unique coverages with. You have 3 physically imposing guys, and then you have some other guys that are on campus that are super gritty and super competitive that I think can get this job done. And so it may force you to get a little creative with your personnel groups and how you align and who you put where and all that good stuff. But I think you're going to be able to have good enough coverage to where Vanderbilt's going to take advantage. The front seven is going to take advantage of this offensive line for the Hokies because it's their biggest question mark. They don't have a ton coming back, and it gets a little dicey when it comes to protecting the quarterback there. And so you're going to have opportunities to force errant throws, to force errors there as well. So these corners are going to be there to take advantage, and I'm really intrigued by this matchup because, Virginia Tech's got to figure out who their number one's going to be. They've got to figure that out. They've got to figure out how they're going to move these guys within the formation. That's another thing they have to figure out. Virginia Tech's also going to figure out, okay, well, how do we get these guys stretching the field, or how do we get these guys downfield while having spotty protection? And all those questions have to be answered. And it's not like Virginia Tech's some big juggernaut that's just been rolling and rolling and rolling, or as Steve says, a rolling ball of butcher knives. They won a bowl game. It wasn't a bowl game to run home about. They had some success. They've got a lot of guys coming back, but they're not world beaters. And that's not, I'm not just trying to say that because this is a Vandy podcast. I'm trying to breathe hope into everybody. I really do think that Vandy has corners that can match up, and they have a front seven that can cause. That's going to be a big part of the reason why these corners can match up, because they're not going to have to cover that long. And is Virginia Tech going to get us occasionally? Sure, that's football. That's major Division I football. They're going to get us at some point. They're going to hit a big play on us at some point. There's going to be some sort of coverage breakdown. There's going to be some sort of technical breakdown. There's going to be something that happens in this game that puts a Vandy corner on an island against Virginia Tech's best receiver. That's going to happen. Just get ready for it. But it's how they respond that's going to make it, that's going to be the difference between, hey, do we have a chance to win this game, or is Virginia Tech just going to roll out of here with a 21-point win and an easy cover and set the tone for the season for Vanderbilt? Now, this game is obviously a tone setter for both programs. I mean, Virginia Tech has a lot of promise. They're looking to contend in the ACC for the first time in a while. And I think if they can get off on the right foot against Vanderbilt, they can set themselves up for a lot of success down the road. Same with Vanderbilt. If Vanderbilt can somehow get this game, I think that'll launch them into a 3-0 start, rolling into Columbia, Missouri. And you get a Vandy team with a lot of confidence and a Missouri team that we know kind of what they got, and we saw them thrash Ohio State in a New Year's Six bowl and an Access Bowl. But what are we talking about here? That game could get real tricky real fast, and these corners, going back to the corners, I think that's going to be the biggest thing to stop against Virginia Tech. They're going to hit you with a barrage of passes. That's going to be the strength of their team. And once they become one-dimensional, you can do some things, some deceptive things, and these corners are veteran guys, so they're going to be able to handle all that, and they're going to be able to be tested and tested and tested and tested. And so I like these matchups a lot. I don't think it's too much. I know a lot of people probably will think it's too much because it's just been hammered into their head. Vandy sucks, Vandy sucks, Vandy sucks, Vandy sucks, Vandy sucks. I mean, like a freaking railroad spike into their brains. Vandy sucks, Vandy sucks, Vandy sucks, right? That's all you hear. And that's all these guys are going to hear, right? And cornerbacks, defenders, pass rushers, if you're listening to me, okay, put this on your bulletin board. I don't really mean it, by the way, but you suck. And if that gets you fired up, you're welcome, okay? I don't really think you suck, but make sure, like, that's like, they're going to hear all that chatter. The point is they're going to hear all that chatter. They're going to hear all that bulletin board material. And these guys are going to be training, and these guys are going to be competing. Practices have and from what I could tell, from what I've heard, practices have been much more competitive. There's been many more one-on-ones. They're starting to build some quality depth with some guys at that position. And they're just going to continue to build and build and build and build and build and build. And the receivers they're going against, although unproven, are pretty dang talented themselves. And there's some trash talk going on between the receivers and the corners. And I love it, dude. And they're just getting ready for game time. They're going to be able, like I think last year's group would have folded. And not to keep disrespecting last year's group until this year's group kind of shows me what they got. That's all I got to go on. Last year's group seemed to fold a little bit, right? They seemed to they weren't scared. They played hard, but things just kind of crumbled for them, right? They just kind of wilted a little bit. And in a situation where you have no identity, your coaching staff's not really setting you up for success, and it's there's a lot of factors, and as Kurt Page said, there's a lot of emotional interference in there. The will to just keep going out there and competing just gets more difficult by the minute or by the play, and it takes its toll on you. And it took a toll on these Commodore defenders last year, and there was no energy, and you could tell. And you could tell exactly when any energy they had would just be sucked right out of the stadium and delivered to the other team, and the other team would just pounce on them at that point. I don't see that same group from everything that I've seen, the clips that I've seen, and it's real easy to point to like off-season stuff and say, oh, this group is really good, really good, really good. This group is this group is that. But truthfully, it's just a different vibe that I'm seeing. And it's a different feel. It's a different message. It just seems like everybody's kind of bought in a little bit more. They're competing with each other. They're cheering each other on. They're talking trash competitively and good-natured trash talk to each other during practice and competitive reps, getting each other ready for the fire that is going to be this schedule in this conference. So again, it's great to see, and I think these corners are up for the challenge. And make sure you tell me in the comments whether you think I'm crazy or you're on board, because you have some physical guys, you have some long physical guys that can press, that can jam, that can do a lot of things, that are physical enough to come up and hit you. And if you catch a quick screen or if you catch a hitch, you're gonna have to run through them, and they're not going to let you. They're not like your stereotypical corners that are going to like olay. So I'm going to err on the side of, let's just get excited, man, and let's just cheer this group on, because there's a notable change. There's a notable change in cultures. There's a notable change in energy, and this is going to be really, really good. So stay tuned for that. And man, I'm excited. So also, looks like the Vandyboys have gotten a memo as far as adding power. They add another transfer today. We'll talk about him next. All right, welcome back. We have a few minutes left here in the show. Want to let you guys know that right here on the Locked On Vandy podcast, we bring you all Vandy all the time, every day. And this is fun, man. This is a lot of fun, not just fun, a lot of fun. And I really appreciate you everydayers. I really appreciate the comments. I really appreciate the growth that we've had so far, and probably the leanest stretch of Vanderbilt athletics in a long time, because I don't pretend to be a Vandy athletics historian by any stretch, but like, I don't remember a time where all three sports were just god awful and downright pitiful at times, as I have this year. Like, the three major sports were awful. Football was abysmal. Basketball was horrendous. Baseball was good at times, but disappointing overall. Women's basketball was solid, but they kind of fell apart a little bit. I think they just got some fatigue, and they're building some depth now too. Track and field has been really good. Men's golf has been really good as well. So there's a few lone bright spots, but as far as the big three goes, it's pretty disappointing around West End, but doesn't seem like a lot of people are wallowing in their misery. Basketball certainly didn't. Football certainly didn't. And baseball doesn't appear to be either. And in fact, they welcome outfielder Koby Kropf. I think that's how you say his name. He is a much needed power hitter from USC Upstate. He hit .352 with 20 dingers and 57 RBI in 2024. He set a program record, actually, for home runs in a season at USC Upstate with 20 home runs. So, Tim Corbin, I think it's obvious the moves he made right after the season, or right after they got eliminated. And he realized that the problem they had is, they had some good pitching, and they need to add some depth there too, because pitching kind of fell apart there with injuries and some guys just not being able to pitch on the road and pitch consistently. They've obviously added some pitching and some big arms at that, but they needed some bats. And they've got a scrappy guy in David Mendez that we talked about on the last episode. And he's got some speed, and he's got a little bit of feistiness to him. But Koby Kropf, man, power, dude. He is he's somebody that needs to that needs to get in this Vandy lineup and just start performing. And the new strategy and the new philosophy, there's a new voice, a new way of doing things, a new philosophy on hitting. And this is going to be great to see. He's a catcher outfielder. I'm going to have to replace Alan Espinal, of course. Alan Espinal is going to go to the NBA or NBA. Yeah, if Alan Espinal is playing in the NBA, that'd be hilarious. He's going to the MLB draft, and he'll be a solid one. He'll be a solid one for the MLB. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these Vandy guys that are leaving going into the draft. I'm excited to see kind of where they land, because the ones that we're losing are good, but Koby Kropf, man, is going to be outstanding. Again, power. It's a much needed power. And with this addition and with some of the other additions in the field players, you're looking for guys that will drive the ball somewhere and really be able to drive in runs and things like that, and help this team score in bunches like they need to do. And again, welcome Koby Kropf, much needed power. They just need to keep adding bats like that and just kind of integrating them in the lineup. Start a different recruiting philosophy as well, where you're not just getting all these infielders and converting these guys. You need to find some power guys, some true outfielders, some true corner infielders, and some true middle infielders. And you just need to put guys where they're supposed to go. So anyway, but this is a good start. This is a good addition here, and I think Jason King will have. I think he's going to have a pretty nice lineup to work with. So before we let you go, congratulations to Luke Cornett. He is an NBA champion with the Boston Celtics. I got to work on these names. These names are killing me. He's a champion with the Boston Celtics, and they just ripped through Dallas in this series, man. It's crazy. So you got to love that, and you got to love how they competed and how he contributed like that. And he's now in the club, the Vandy Club of Champions, where he can enjoy illustrious company. Will Purdue, of course, being the best. So with that, that's going to be fun for him. That's going to be something he's likely going to cherish the rest of his life. He's forever an NBA champion. So that's exciting to see. That's something that Mark Byington can put up on his recruiting boards. Hey, look, man, you come to Vanderbilt, you have the potential to be an NBA champion like Luke Cornett, right? So that's going to be a lot of fun. So, but that's going to do it for us here on this episode. Talking corners, man, Vandy Island. They're going to have their work cut out, especially covering tight ends. Welcome Tight End U. Tight End U is taking over Vanderbilt's campus. If you don't know what Tight End U is, that's George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and Greg Olson's tight end university, where they welcome all these NFL guys to Vanderbilt's campus because George Kittle lives here in Nashville. So that's kind of fun. That's kind of fun that they picked Vanderbilt as their destination to hold their camp. And that's a good recruiting tool for Vanderbilt, saying, hey, look, our facilities are good enough for NFL players to come and train, to want to come and train, because they're only going to want the best. And Vanderbilt is a really good location to train. So if you want to put that feather in your recruiting cap, go for it. But anyway, that's all we got. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you back here better than ever. Anchor down.